over me 2-3 times the speeds I could not identify. It was flying past. It's a long shape. Cannot identify more than it has such speed. It seems like it's stationary. What I'm doing right now is orbiting, and the thing is just orbiting on top of me also. It's got a green light and sort of metallic-like. It's all shiny on the outside. The engine is rough idling. I've got it set at 23, 24, and the thing is coughing. Engines are going to go to King Island, Melbourne. That strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It is hovering, and it is not an aircraft.
What you've just heard was a recreation of the final words spoken by pilot Fred Valentich before his plane disappeared over Bass Strait. Even though it's been 19 years since Fred disappeared, the mystery surrounding what happened to him still hasn't faded. He just vanished without trace, and his family believed he was taken by an unidentified flying object. Recent years has been an explosion of UFO sightings in Australia. Whenever you mention the topic, people seem to have their own theories and opinions, or even their own stories.
It was orange like a sunset, and it was just spanning across the road.
I can't move it. Moving forward in time through the experience.
Then this tall dark being just appeared in front of the craft.
I mean, it looks like a traditional, every day of the week, comic book flying saucer.
They had large almond-shaped eyes, small bodies, legs and arms, and sort of grey in appearance.
I think it's the first time in my life that I could identify of anybody telling me that they were scared they were going to die.
Saying that this thing was only just down the bottom of his street. He could see that it was out in the water, it was sucking up water.
Yeah, I believe it's a UFO.
There are between 400 and 500 reports a month of UFOs in this country. Now, obviously, a lot of them can be explained, but about 10% prove to be true mysteries. Tonight you'll hear from people who've had these experiences. They're just normal Australians who can't explain what they saw.
I was travelling from Sydney in a northerly direction toward Gosford along this particular road here, the Pacific Highway, and it was quiet. There wasn't a lot of traffic. It was early Christmas morning, and I was just gazing out of the front window of the car, and I saw approximately half a kilometre away a bright silver metallic object crossing from south to north.
I stood here, not believing my eyes, because where I sit, I can see the open water. And I just couldn't believe that this thing could appear on the water. It was some kind of craft, but it was completely surrounded in lights underneath and all around, and it just looked like a carousel. It wasn't anything flat.
Around holiday time, the local police know they'll be busy. But on this New Year's Eve, the calls weren't what they expected.
All people that I spoke to had exactly the same thing to say. There was no variance whatsoever in the object that was sighted. It was a huge chrome, very shiny object in the shape of a ball. At the bottom of the ball was a number of huge white lights. But this object looked like it was sucking up water. Some calls were quite frightful in their voice. You could actually hear the fear in the background, especially the fear of people and, of course, animals and things at the time that were experiencing this phenomenon.
We're looking out above this headland here, and we're watching a bright light move in a strange fashion that you'll never see, or we never saw anyway. That was moving quickly and moved, for instance, in a zigzag fashion. We were watching it for 10 to 15 minutes, move in this direction north, and we just saw this bright light, 15, 20 metres above our car. Just a bright light, emanating light towards our car. Mate, it was just awesome.
All of a sudden I saw these lights come out of the water, like a cylinder, and flash. And the top of the water was all lit up. And as that light was up, I could hear the rushing of water, movement of water, and then the water being raised up. And then shortly after, down comes the water on top of the lake.
I noticed this rather bright light that seemed to be on the right-hand side of the car, and it seemed to be following us for quite a while. And then all of a sudden it turned and went at a right angle right across the expressway in front of the car. It was large, round, and seemed to have a stream of sparks flying out the back of it. I don't know what it was, but it was most peculiar.
After the initial New Year's Eve reports to police, the local Sun Weekly newspaper got hold of the story.
There were hundreds more people at home that had obviously thought they'd seen something quite out of the ordinary, but were too scared maybe to come forward and actually say that they'd seen something. Our office, the day the report hit the streets, was amazing. We had caller after caller saying they'd seen the same thing.
A lot of the witnesses were retired academics, some were policemen, nurses, school teachers, Sunday school teachers, lawyers, business people, some of the leading business people in the area. They were all people that had everything to lose and nothing to gain by even coming forward and making a report. All the people who actually saw it hovering over the water described these 4 or 5 shafts of bright white light coming down to the water and literally penetrating the water rather than reflecting off it. We also had descriptions of the water seething underneath it. Some people said it frothed, some people said it foamed, some people said it was steaming up.
Overall, I'd imagine there'd be probably 3 dozen telephone calls on a night.
Well, police, haven't we?
In particular, Sergeant Wenning remembers one very distressed caller.
He told me he had been woken up from a deep sleep with thunderous noise and bright lights, dogs barking. His children had come into his bedroom screaming. He was saying that this thing was only just down the bottom of his street. He could see it was out in the water, it was sucking up water. The sound was like a million hummingbees. He didn't know what was going on.
We investigated officially with the local aircraft, aerodromes, with the Air Force, with air traffic control, and again could come up with no explanation.
While everyone can describe what they saw, no one seems to have the answer to exactly what it was or where it came from.
There was moving in waves in the sky, which could only be described as a UFO.
When you see something like this, there's a sure knowledge that you're looking at something that is beyond your experience.
I'm not young, and people might think, oh, you're a bit strange, seeing things and had imagination. No, I've got imagination, but not like that. Not when I see something that I see. I know I saw it.
At first I thought, well, maybe it's some type of meteorite, but it was too large, it was travelling too slow, and turned a right angle, which I know meteorites aren't inclined to do.
I was just bewildered how something could appear and disappear in the thin air practically.
Well, I honestly don't know what they saw. We've gone right through all the realm of possible explanations, which leaves it as what a UFO truly is, a flying object which we cannot identify by conventional means.
There's a saying that seeing is believing, and it certainly applies to UFOs. The most intriguing personal accounts come from people with no real interest or belief, until it happens to them.
Before this happened to me, I can be honest, I could say that I was in that category of being naive. I didn't believe it. I didn't really believe it, because I had to see, it's like I would have to see it with my own eyes.
Grace's experience starts in the early hours of the morning travelling home with 3 girlfriends. Victoria, who can't be identified, was one of the women in the back seat.
It's when I got a bit further down the hill that I noticed on the right-hand side of me some long, oblong-shaped lights. I didn't know what they were. I mean, I only sort of caught a glimpse of a bright orange light sort of shining through. As I got down the hillside and started to come around the corner by this little hotel that takes us back through the back roads towards the freeway, one of the girls in the back noticed a very bright white light with a type of blue haze around it. When the girls were sort of saying, oh, maybe, you know, like it's a UFO, and, you know, we sort of like just laughed it off and said, don't be so ridiculous.
The women continued their trip, but further down the road, more lights appeared.
I heard Victoria and one of the other girls in the back there, they were commenting on something that was behind us. They actually thought somebody was coming up behind us, like a truck or something, because it was moving fairly fast and very bright. It was just such a brightest blinding light. It was orange like a sunset, and it was just spanning across the road. I got really scared. I said to Grace, quick, just step on it.
because I knew there was a town just a kilometre up the road.
So as we got closer into the middle of this car parking area and looked up, we could see this ship. Well, that's what you'd have to call it, because it was, you know, definitely not an aeroplane, and it was something from definitely not this world, that's for sure.
It sort of moved across from this direction straight over the top of us. Sort of disappeared into a gully where we lost sight of it.
We were scared for our safety. I mean, I got to be honest, I think it's the first time in my life that I could identify of anybody telling me that they were scared they were going to die. Because I was. When I got to the opening of the drive here, the other girls noticed that there was something else up. Some activity up there in the sky. We were still scared. We didn't know what they were either. They seemed to be moving in a direction that this other craft had gone over and gone down.
So the first thing you think of, just pull in someone's driveway.
And as I pulled in, the light was so blinding, it actually was hurting our eyes to look at it. Then I noticed a figure coming. It wasn't a human. It definitely was no human, that's for sure. I felt threatened by it. I felt really, really threatened by it. That was the closest thing I've ever experienced, the thought of actually, you know, coming close to death, I suppose, which sounds pretty silly, but the fear that I had was like that, like I wasn't going to see my family again. And the weird thing is that it's not the normal thing to talk about and for people to accept. But, you know, it's been 3 years now, and I still feel very distressed by it.
In the weeks, I felt a lot of doubt with what happened to Grace. I didn't believe it, truly believed it, because I hadn't experienced anything like that myself. So I didn't show it either. I mean, I didn't show that I didn't believe it, because I think it was important that I looked like I was supporting her, so that otherwise, you know, she might go sort of, you know, off the rails if she didn't feel she had some support from her husband.
But 2 weeks later, those doubts disappeared.
What's work?
Late one night, they were both woken by their distressed 15-year-old son.
He was dead set that he had presence in his room. You know, there was somebody in his room. And one thing that he kept saying at that time was that, can you hear that sound? And he kept pointing up to the ceiling. And we could hear this low drone sound. I knew then I'd heard that sound before. We got back into bed and I was laying there. And I thought, do I lie here and just let this thing go through and just, you know, try and wipe it off as another bad experience, or do I actually get up and look, and if it is what I think it is, then maybe my husband will be able to see for the first time and he will believe.
I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. When you see an object that's just sort of floating through the air, like at slow pace, and you think to yourself, oh my God, it struck me as, you know, being awesome. It's just something unbelievable.
It was a relief that he was able to see this thing, and all I kept saying was that was the thing that was there the night when I was with the others.
Certainly by its nature, by the way characteristics of the way it just hovered across the house at a slow pace, yeah, no, nothing man-made. Not from this country, not from this earth, I should say.
Even though Grace and her husband ended up experiencing the same craft, their ways of coping with it differ.
You either accept it or you don't accept it. And I tend to say now, after I've seen it with my own eyes, I accept it, but I don't, you know, harp on about it and talk about it. And if it's just one of those things that you try and leave as a part of your life that's happened, and let's get on with it and let's move on from here, you see. And that's how I sort of try and treat it, rather than try and find an explanation as to what it is.
Yeah, I really don't have a theory yet. It's basically, it's more the fear. Again, I don't know why, because I'm still here and I am healthy, you know, I mean, but the fact is it's just a worry, because you don't know. You just don't know.
What do you reckon it is?
Got no idea.
Images of UFOs caught on video over the years tend to raise more questions than they answer.
They are visitors. Yeah? Yes, UFO.
Working out whether there is something out there has intrigued researchers for years.
And there's no doubt that there is a physical dimension to this UFO phenomenon, and it appears to involve some form of technology, and many cases certainly suggest that we're dealing with an exotic technology that might be something certainly foreign to our environment.
When a Melbourne photographer saw images like these, he was interested enough to go on standby to try and capture on film whatever was buzzing the sky over Narre Warren in June 1996.
I got the phone call and I was told that the lights were spinning across the tree line over the homes. What I did was put the camera onto the object, allowing it just to come into frame, hit the shutter, count to 20, stop, wind, move the camera to the next part of the frame, start the shot, count to 20, let it go, and so forth. The first night, the result of the photographs showed just light trails of this object going across over the tree line. The second night, with higher speed film and the higher magnification lens, is where we actually captured the shot of the disc. This thing was, the only way to explain it was moving across the air like ice on a hot plate, very, very smooth.
Later in the program, Doug's photos will be studied by an independent expert.
Well, it was flying, it's unidentified, and it was definitely an object. What it will be, and I hope with the analysis will prove me right. But yeah, I believe it's a UFO.
In the UFO community, the term hypnotherapy is like a buzzword. It's the thing to try if you feel you have secrets of the past to unlock. While mainstream medicine doesn't necessarily recognise it, people who've had UFO encounters believe it helps.
Victor Pufulescu believes he started having alien encounters as a teenager back in his native Romania. He's turned to hypnotherapy to try and find out exactly what happened.
It's like being a good soldier. You just obey orders. This is actually probably the best description of hypnosis process.
Loosen limb, deeper sleep. Loosen limb, heavier and heavier. Not a worry, not a care. Deeper, deeper, and deeper. Hypnotherapy is a way of allowing us to get into the subconscious mind. The intellectual mind tends to want to control and criticise everything. It's the censor of stuff it doesn't even know about that was in there before we were 3 years old. So by sort of relaxing and sliding across the conscious mind, if you like, we can sort of delve into the unconscious, or to allow what's in the unconscious to find its way out.
Oh, I can't move, Frank.
Uh-huh.
The pressure is increasing. I can't move. The chest, my arms,
uh-huh,
my legs.
There's a thing about hypnotherapy that very often the subject will want to please the hypnotist. So you have to look at that. But the thing is that you can see that when a person is reliving an experience, that it's pretty easy to see whether that's faked or not. Moving forward in time.
My legs.
Moving forward in time. Moving forward in time through the experience.
The pain is inside of my elbow.
Uh-huh.
Thanks.
Who are you saying thanks to?
Them.
Uh-huh. Can you ask them what they're doing?
No. It's a test.
That's a test.
I just know it's a test. They keep me telling me, be calm.
They're telling you to be calm.
Yeah.
Very often the people are quite disturbed about dreams they're having or things they've imagined happen to them. And they often come out of this saying, I'm pleased I'm not crazy, or I'm not mad, or I'm not imagining this.
It does give you some answers, but also creates thousands more. And this is probably the trickiest part. I'm never happy with the answer which I'm getting, and I want more and more and more.
Just relaxing as much as you can with every breath. Just feeling a sense of calm. From 1992, there was a very strong correlation with awakening psychically and with my healing work to having these experiences.
Elizabeth Robinson is a spiritual healer and therapist who says she's been having extraterrestrial experiences since childhood, but is only now starting to accept them.
I mean, when they started with me, I thought, my God, this is bizarre. You know, this is crazy. This is in the realm of science fiction.